Hello and welcome to Insightful Conversations with me, your host, Adey-Jones. Are you looking for more peace, love and joy in your life? Then this is the show for you. Tune in each week to meet some of the world's leading 3 principles teachers and practitioners as they share how this simple yet profound understanding can dramatically improve the quality of your life, from your relationships to your career and everything in between. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. We have a fabulous guest lined up for you, and she is a friend of mine and a fellow 3 Principles practitioner, and I am so thrilled to welcome Betsy Russell.
Thank you.
So Betsy, I'm just going to give you a little intro on Betsy here. So Betsy has been working as a working actor, for 35 years, starring in over 20 films and many TV shows. She started her spiritual journey at USM, which is the University of Santa Monica, in 2007, completing her master's degree in 2009, and that's where she also received her coaching certification from. So Betsy found the principles shortly after that and has been a 3 Principles practitioner ever since. You can find Betsy on her YouTube channel, From the Heart with Betsy Russell, and on her website, IamBetsyRussell.com, where she answers live questions from her fans, or she's at home writing and finishing up her book projects. So welcome, Betsy. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Del.
So before we get started, I actually have to thank you for introducing me, or reintroducing me, I should say, to the 3 Principles.
You're welcome. I think I stalked you at the grocery store to tell you all about it.
You know what it happened? Well, that was after I inquired about it, because what happened was I'd read a book about 12 years ago by Richard Carlson called Stop Thinking, Start Living, which was incredible, but he didn't mention the 3 Principles, so I had no idea where to continue to read about it. And then I had you on our old show, Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, probably about close to 2 years ago.
Yes.
And you mentioned the principles, and I was like, I know this. So that's where it started. And then, yes, I stalked you in the grocery store and said, tell me more.
Yes, I don't understand it. Tell me more, which is actually, I think that happens a lot in the beginning. We're always trying to understand, what does it all mean? And I don't really get it. Tell me how to understand it better. And then it just sort of happens.
Well, the thing for me was Richard, I thought, did it brilliantly, but he didn't reference it. And as soon as you start hearing these words, mind, consciousness, and thought, that's when the confusion comes in for many people, I think.
Trying to understand what those three things really are all about. And the truth is, for me, that those 3 words, thought, mind, and consciousness, aren't really that important, but it's more just what it starts meaning for each individual person as we go down the path. Yeah,
that's exactly how I feel. I mean, I say, okay, I've said the words, now forget them.
Right.
Just go for the feeling and go to and look at what we're pointing at. So,
right, and that's what Sid said. Don't listen to my words, just pay attention to the feeling that you get when you're listening to me, which is exactly how I started out listening to, Carrie Sissa, my best friend, and we were hiking, and she would come back from these workshops, and she would explain to me 3 principles, and I would say, wait a minute, you mean I get to choose which thoughts I focus on and which thoughts I make my reality, because none of it's real, and I don't have to be miserable, and I don't have to suffer giving these negative thoughts a life. And she would say, isn't that cool? We would just, we were on the path in Malibu hiking, just jumping up and down for joy because it made us feel, or it made me feel freedom, actually, that I have a choice if I'm going to be happy or if I'm going to suffer.
I know. And what I was going to say is, I'm sure for you as an actor for all those years, you probably think, God, if I'd only known that then, all the years of suffering, I would assume, because there's a lot of rejection in acting as well as...
Yes, there is a lot of rejection in acting. And actually, I did have something inherent, and that is that I just didn't take things personally. So most of the times when I would go on auditions and I wouldn't get the part, I just forgot about it. And I just said, I'm probably just not right for the part. Or there's someone that's better at auditioning than I am, or it just wasn't meant to be. A couple times I remember just sobbing my eyes out after, 5 auditions for a huge role and not getting it. But that's just normal, which is what I've learned, that we have our pity parties at times, and it's okay, and not to judge it and to just move on. Then it passes quickly if we don't judge our low moods.
Exactly. And you actually point to something really important, which is you said you had something naturally, inherently in you that made you not take things personally. So obviously you were pretty well cued into your innate well-being, which I certainly wasn't. I took everything personally, and so that's why this understanding was so impactful for me, because I would have a lot of insecure thinking.
Yeah, well, I would have to say that just generally, especially aging in Hollywood or aging anywhere, but especially in Hollywood around a lot of young people, it does tend to be a little bit taxing if we just don't stay in appreciation and really just have an appreciation for all that, you know, is good every day, and for those wonderful thoughts that come in. And I kind of just hold on to that. But I've always been a very, very positive person. So for me, I always say, before I went to University of Santa Monica, I thought there was something wrong with me, that I was so happy and so joyful and almost like a Pollyanna type of person, especially having parents, you know, that were, my dad was, you know, Jewish, and everything, the sky was always falling, you know, he was an economist, and he was, you know, a bear. He always said that, you know, here's some diamonds that you can put and sew into your clothes. So when the, you know, World War III happens, you can just hand somebody a diamond and get food. I mean, that's how I grew up. And my mother, you know, was a severely autistic sister that I had, and my mother was always very upset. So I think I was kind of looking for the joy in every situation, just to brighten things up.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you said that you went to USM thinking that there was something wrong with you because you were so happy.
Yeah.
Most of us went there thinking there was something wrong with us that we needed to fix.
Well, I came across a very difficult situation in that I was in a tough relationship, and I kept asking Carrie, who had also just started University of Santa Monica, how do I fix this? How do I make this situation better? And that's when she said, just sign up for University of Santa Monica, just take it one weekend at a time. And we all know that once you get there, you never want to leave. But that's where I learned that, no, it's actually great to be happy, and it's great to be joyful. That's the goal, to have more of that. And they gave us the skills how to get there. Yeah. And it's inherent in all of us. It's how babies are naturally born. We're all born the same. I mean, unless you think that some of us come in just angry or with stuff to deal with, babies are usually pretty happy until they learn otherwise.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of thinking. I mean, I've never seen an insecure baby. They just sort of show up and do their thing, and you know, cycle through their emotions. They don't hold grudges and hang on to things.
No, I think that's more of a learned thing that we get from the environment, from the people in our lives. We watch other people do that sort of thing, and we can take it on. I mean, I had a great example again in my father when he divorced my stepmom, and they just had the most beautiful uncoupling, as we call it now. And that was my example, how to do things in a beautiful, loving way with, you know, he was just so forgiving always. So I had that example, and that's what I've carried forward in my life, I think. I like to think.
Wow, that's really, really touching. I know you part of your upbringing was very challenging too, as you mentioned briefly, that you had a sister. No, she was an older sister, is that correct?
Yes, my older sister, Nicole, she's 5 years older, and she recently passed away, and after having a seizure. And my mother, who had severe Alzheimer's, they were living in the same house, and she was told that her daughter had passed away, and she literally turned over, had a tear, coughed, and died 15 minutes later.
That is just unbelievable to me. Obviously, the connection was so deep.
The connection, I mean, I just feel validated in wanting them to spend the last years of my mother's life. I didn't know it'd be the last years of my sister's life, but the last years of my mother's life in the same house, and didn't even realize till recently that my father also had passed away 3 years ago on my sister's birthday, that same sister. So the three of them came in with such a mission. Their souls needed to work through something together, in my opinion, because it was just a beautiful way that they all went out. You know?
Exactly. Transition just went from the form to the formless.
Exactly.
So how did the principles, do you think, help you during that period? Because I lost 3 family members within 8 months recently in the last year and a half. And I know, thank God for the principles, it really helped me navigate what could have been a very difficult time with so much more ease and grace. So I'm curious how you found that for yourself.
Well, that is the thing about thought, mind, and consciousness, that it does help us navigate the ups, the lows, and the highs with ease and grace, meaning that any situation I'm going to have. I mean, I recently had a tough thing happen to me in another situation in a relationship, and I was going through it just like, this doesn't feel good. And then all of a sudden, you know, of course, I have the skills to know that, you know, I can quiet my thinking, but of course I'm like, wait, I can't quiet this. It won't go away. It won't go away. But then all of a sudden I had this thought, wait, this is going to pass. I'm going to feel great within probably a day or 2 or 3. It just kind of hit me. Why didn't I think of that sooner? I'm going to feel great again. This is all going to be a distant memory. And just that one simple thought is worth all of it. Exactly. Because I used to get into my pity parties or just kind of be sad about something, and I didn't have the understanding. I think that's what makes people so fearful when they're having depression or they're having anxiety. It's that we're going to feel this way forever. Exactly. And so just really having the understanding and have others to support us saying, guess what? It's going to pass. Just like when you cut your finger, it heals. We're organically going to go back to our default setting, which is peace and happiness. Yeah. And just that alone, it was like, thank God. Yeah. And knowing that helps it happen quicker.
Absolutely.
For me.
And the other thing is to know that we are human. Nobody's trying to be so spiritual that we're not human. Right. But it's embracing that humanity and knowing that, yeah, you might be stuck in it for a little while and it's okay. And the more that you take the focus off it and take the judgment off it, as you said, the quicker it passes.
Yes. And who are we to think that we're above having, you know, sad times for as long as it may last when we lose a loved one? Or, I mean, you asked me how it helped me go through my mother and my sister dying within 15 minutes of each other. When my older sister called to tell me that my autistic sister had passed, I was just, wow, I didn't see that coming. I thought she'd live another 30 years. But then when she called a half hour later to tell me my mother had also passed, I just started screaming. Yeah. Not because I wish she hadn't died, because I really knew it was her time to go, but because the beauty in it, to just say, wow, that's why she was holding on, because she felt the responsibility of her daughter, and she just was free to go. I just see the beauty in everything so much more now, and just knowing that there's nothing that happens to me in my life that isn't in my best interest. Yeah. I think more than anything, I mean, the saying the universe has our back, it just means more to me now, no matter what happens. I mean, it's the same with the University of Santa Monica. I'm so grateful that I went through that system. I mean, I'm grateful that I have those skills, not that I necessarily use them as much anymore. Now that I have 3 principles, I know there's nothing to do now, and that we're all perfect exactly as we are, but for our thinking. I mean, I didn't believe in mistakes anyway before, and now I believe that we really are all perfect and we're all the same. Yeah. And it's all one.
That's so beautiful. I agree with you. I loved USM. And I got so many of the concepts here, and they went from here to about here. But I think after the principles, they went dunk, and they just landed. They landed in a way that they just hadn't prior to that. And but I'm forever grateful for the time that I spent at USM and the priming that it gave us for this new understanding that we all sort of came across around. Well, you came across it in 2016, you said? We graduated the coaching program together.
2015.
So 2015.
Graduated coaching. Exactly. And then 2016, 3 principles. And it is. I mean, I learned at University of Santa Monica how to speak, how to really, because we talked so much and we processed so much, that now I can stand up in front of however many people, not have anything planned, which is very 3 principles, and just download from the universe whatever I'm supposed to say and not worry. Like today, I didn't even think about anything. I started to, and I said, wait, I'm just going to download whatever's supposed to come out of me is going to, and I'm going to trust in that. Yeah. But I love that I learned at University of Santa Monica, because we did so much speaking, just how to really talk and be comfortable speaking.
That's fabulous. Yeah. You must have talked a lot. I didn't get that from them. No, I didn't.
As we were sharing and
I think
coaching?
I shared maybe 3 times in the 2 years I was there.
But I mean in trios.
Oh, in the trios,
yeah,
yes.
just talk and talk and talk. And
Yeah.
before, I don't think I was, I mean, just because I'm an actress, I had lines that I spoke, but I didn't speak from my heart.
Oh,
I wasn't
wow.
used to just speaking for such a long time and coaching from my heart.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to that.
Well, that part I was very used to, having been in therapy for 30 years. But but the speaking in front of people was something that came for me after the 3. Well, let me say it this way: I was already doing the radio show before that, but that learning to just access what's coming up, fresh in the moment, and just trusting.
Yes.
It's just whatever comes up is meant to come up. I just love that freedom.
I love that. I remember the first time that really was so clear for me was at my father-in-law's memorial for Dick Van Patten. And I was there, and my ex-husband looks at me. I wasn't planning to say anything. I mean, I was the ex-stepdaughter. I just didn't think it was my place. And my ex-husband looked at me. He said, "Get up and speak."
Wow.
And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, get up. Don't you want to talk? Don't you want to speak?" And I said,
so fond of him, I know.
I know, and I think I just, after reading the Surrender Experiment, I was like, just say yes to life, okay. Yeah. And I remember running up to another friend, Tony Griffin, and saying, "Do you have a pen? I want to write down a few things." And he went back to his wife and said, "Good Lord, Betsy doesn't have anything written, and she's getting up there to speak." And I remember just getting up and saying, "I don't have anything planned. I'm going to speak from my heart." And I think it was the most profound speech, I had ever given. And I think that gave me just validity that, hey, I don't need to have anything planned. Yes. I can just speak and it's going to come through the way it's meant to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I want to get talking about profound things that come out of your mouth. I know that you, on your website, you coach some of your fans, and I've read some of the responses that you give to people, and they are pretty profound, I must say. Goody. So how did that come about? Is that where most of your coaching takes place, is with your fan base, or
interestingly enough, yes, it has been. Yeah. I think I kind of grew up reading Dear Abby. I've always been attracted to the psychology and helping people. And so when my friend was doing my website, I think I said, put a page there where they can write in and I can answer their questions. And of course, there's so many questions that come in that aren't appropriate and stuff like that. So I just try to concentrate on the ones to help them. And I don't know if you read from the beginning. It's definitely evolved since I got into 3 Principles. Before it was a lot different.
No, I've read your 3 Principles responses, which are really. So give us an example of some of the questions that people ask you. And
one guy, I remember, he said, my wife had an affair on me many years ago. She's in the Army. She had an affair, and I just can't get past it. Can you please give me some help? So I know that I gave him some books to read, and it was a while ago, but I answered, it's about forgiveness. And, it's your choice. You can be having a beautiful evening with your wife, and you can suddenly get a thought that comes into your mind, I can't believe she was with this other person. Yeah. And you have a choice in that moment to say, wait a minute, I can go down that dark rabbit hole and ruin my evening, maybe tomorrow, maybe my relationship and my life possibly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you can just say, wait a minute, I don't know what I don't know. I'm going to let that go right now and have a beautiful rest of your evening. And that just happened to me recently with someone that I was dating. So, I mean, I know it works. And he wrote back to me and said, "You saved my marriage. Wow. I so appreciate you. Thank you. And I'm going to read more and more." So
that's incredible, because I think most people, they just don't realize that, we re-traumatize ourselves when we, of course, thoughts are going to come through. We have no control over that. They're just going to pop in. But when we sort of latch onto them and we re-traumatize ourselves from some event that did happen in the past, we have a choice. That's where the free will comes in that moment. Yeah. How long do we want to stay in it? And sometimes you have to keep, those thoughts are habitual, and you just have to sort of keep batting them away. No judgment, but just not entertain them.
Right. And sometimes I give myself, I'll say, okay, I really want to think this right now. I'm going to give myself, 30 seconds or a minute just to think about it. And that's it. Then I'm going to be done with it. And I think as we go along, we get better at being able to get past it. Yeah. And, we, as you say, we do have moments of it coming back. That's not in our control. We cannot control which thoughts come in and out. But we do get better at deciding which thoughts we're going to give a life to.
Yeah. I call it like, the negative thoughts. I say it's like the sort of bothersome neighbor that comes knocking on your door. And, you can't control what's going out in your street. You can't control people coming up and knocking on your door. But you can control whether you, open the door, invite them in for a cup of tea.
Absolutely.
It's just like, how long do you want to entertain them for?
Yeah.
I had the same experience with my mother when she passed away. There were moments when I could just think about her and really miss her and love her, and other times when I just realized that, I was a little bit in a low mood, and that just wasn't the time to sort of indulge that feeling.
Right.
Because some of the times I'd think of her and it would be like, oh my God, that's so great. I loved her so much. And other times it's like, oh, I miss her. And it was just not the right time to really allow those thoughts to stay around too long.
Yes. I mean, sometimes I have the thought, oh, I wish I knew this before my dad passed, because he was my coaching project during the coaching workshop. And I coached him so much. But the one thing I didn't know to say, because I didn't know it, was, Dad, you are trusting your negative thoughts, that they're real. You're making them real, and it's affecting your life, and you've become a victim.
Yes.
And there is nothing that's good that's going to come out of these negative thoughts. I didn't know that then. And so he didn't learn it in this lifetime. And that's just what was supposed to happen.
Exactly.
So I can't beat myself up, or I guess he was supposed to come back, or maybe he doesn't need to know it.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line. So it's all good.
That's beautiful. So I also want to touch on your books. I know you're writing some books right now. So that's 2 books.
Well, one, I couldn't decide, and I don't want to say I get bored, because now I learned that bored is all in our head. It's not a thing, and it's great not to be doing a lot of things at once. So I am writing one that's sort of just on my views about everything, about dating, which I've got 60 pages of. It seems like that's sort of overtaken the whole thing. So
that
later,
could be a book in itself.
That could be. I'm going to have an editor figure out if that's a separate book. But dating and my views on spirituality and 3 principles and self-care and beauty and aging and raising kids in Hollywood and breaking into the business. So those are just a few of my topics. So it's basically just going to be my views on life.
Brilliant.
And,
Lovely.
when I sign autographs, I can basically cut the conversation short and say, here, read the book, right? So that's one. And then I'm working, it actually arose from my son taking a writer's workshop in New York and coming home to tell me all about it. And I said, oh, wait a minute. I think I have an idea too for my life story, which is growing up with this severely autistic sister and feeling like an outcast, and my parents being completely involved in therapy at that time, and having growing up in a commune too, because they ended up having all these people living with us taking care of my sister, and it ended up basically a self-help commune. So I grew up that way. And the people that I have mentioned it to always just say, write a book. So I think that would be a really cool TV series because of the characters. So I'm working on both of those.
Fabulous.
And hoping to complete them soon.
Yeah. And I know that you've also got a podcast with your son. How's
do.
that going?
My son is a great talker. He once you wind him up, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just doesn't stop. So I noticed that every morning he would be driving to work and call me, and we would have this great conversation. Like, he's been to the 3 Principles workshops with me as well, and this has helped him through so much when he was in London studying, and he sort of had a breakdown and realized that he was going to have to embrace his spirituality instead of trying to push it away. So we have these conversations every morning. It's like, Mom, guess what? I tried out not defending myself yesterday, and it just feels so good, and I'm never gonna defend myself again, because that's one of the things that it's sort of like we don't need to defend ourselves. Exactly. It's just a thing. It's not a real thing. So every time we'd be done with our conversation, I'd say, gosh, I wish I had recorded that. So we started this podcast where people will have asked us, oh my gosh, did you have it lightly scripted? Did you know what you were going to say? Did you have bullet points? We had nothing.
No.
We just started talking.
Yeah, I listened to them. I thought it was fabulous. So what is the podcast name for people that want to?
It's called Delving In with Duke and Betsy.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And do you have anything else coming up? Anything to share with our listeners?
Well, my intention is to take the 3 Principles message into high schools and colleges. So I've written a beautiful speech, And people have told me it's beautiful. I don't just say that. But some tough critics. Yeah,
you're allowed to think anything you want.
Yes. So my intention is to go into schools and to teach them the message that it's, it's made up, it's created. We can turn our life into anything that we want to.
Yeah.
So
that's great. I know I always say, excuse my swearing here, but I always say we're making up shit, so we might as well make up good shit.
Exactly.
I mean, so that's great. So how have you started thinking about maybe taking it into the local high school and starting there?
Yes, I've actually been in touch with my alma mater, with my Mission Bay High School in San Diego, and I'm hoping to do that soon. It's kind of tough to tie these schools down, and I don't really understand the system yet. So I mean, I've been doing a little just sort of self-reflection and relaxing since my, both of my parents and my sister passed away in the last couple of years. So I've really just been taking time to myself, not pushing myself, not stressing out over what do I need to do next, what's my next chapter, just kind of letting it all fall into place. So I'm not rushing, I'm not stressing, but those are my, finishing my book, going into the schools, continuing with my acting because I have a couple projects in the works too.
Talk about those that are coming up and what you've been in recently so people can see you.
I haven't been in anything recently. But I do have a fan of mine. Oh, and that's another thing I didn't touch on. You said, had I been coaching fans? Yes. Well, so a fan wrote a part for me, and just so happens that he didn't realize we had a mutual friend, but saw that we were friends on Facebook. So he sent me a script, which I love. And so he has a deal with, I think, Netflix. Since the psychic told me I'll be doing a series on Netflix, I'm hoping that either that's it or maybe they're going to turn the Saw series into a Netflix show, which I've heard might happen. So
wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm hoping that one of those two things will happen. And yes, I do coach my fans. They usually find me on my website. And
give your website one more time.
The letter I, the letter M, BetsyRussell.com, and they've emailed me, and I've ended up coaching them.
That's fabulous.
Yeah,
really
so
good.
I vet them and make sure that everything's legit and up and up. And they're usually, successful men. It's been so far in the Midwest, Middle East. Maybe that's to come in the Midwest, and men that really thought that just by making all this money and getting married and having families, that would bring them happiness. And somehow it just didn't all come together as they had hoped. So I start coaching them, and before you know it, boom. It's all good. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. That's what I love about this understanding is I spend so much less time in my head figuring things out and planning what I should do and just sort of like hanging out and just waiting for those bubbling ups of, wisdom to guide me on what the next step is.
Yeah, and we don't have to be so busy. I mean, it's so easy to look on social media and see that, this person's got a podcast and a YouTube show and a streaming show and, they're posting every day and they're on Good Morning America and all this stuff is happening. And I just am laying there in bed going, what am I going to do today after I work out? And that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to be doing 10 million things to be happy. As long as we are peaceful and calm. And I always say, if I smile at one person today and light them up, I'm good.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful place to end, is on that note. I was going to ask you for some final words of wisdom for our listeners, but I think that's a good one. Just sharing who you are at your essence, just smiling at people and showing up in the beautiful, peaceful place that you're at.
Right. Truthfully, we don't know what one smile can do for somebody else, and one conversation can change a life. So, it's not like you have to be doing 10 million things to impact someone else. I mean, even if I have one great conversation with one person on the phone, a best friend just called me from high school and said, I'm having so much problem with, my family member, and I helped her in a half an hour, and she had the best conversation with this girl of the last 20 years. So I said, okay, I'm good for, I don't want to say today, maybe this month. I'm easy on myself.
Oh, that's great. I know that. Well, thank you so much. I know you're so busy. I know you take time to relax,
not.
But you are busy too.
I'm busy and relaxed.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining me today and just sharing these incredible words of wisdom and just pointing more people in this direction that brings so much peace, love, and joy into our lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to Insightful Conversations with me, your host, Adey-Jones. Are you looking for more peace, love and joy in your life? Then this is the show for you. Tune in each week to meet some of the world's leading 3 principles teachers and practitioners as they share how this simple yet profound understanding can dramatically improve the quality of your life, from your relationships to your career and everything in between.